I am that guy, and if you want to tweet at me, about me, or something like that, JK Rohrs. I wrote this book, and I'm going to spoil it for you today, in large part. So let's get started. Email is in the headline, but if you are talking email, you are really not talking about a channel so much as you are talking about one thing, and that is audience. We don't email to send email. We email to reach people, to gain their attention, and to have them take action. And we do that because this medium is the oldest digital tool in our toolbox. It is direct, it is low cost, immediate, measurable, and shareable. It is the original social media. In fact, as you look at those 5 things and you think about social media and many of our mobile communication channels, each of them aspires to be that as well. So we have diversified the number of channels that we can communicate with clients and with prospects. Now I want to tell you a little story about a gentleman from my neighborhood in Lakewood, Ohio. This is Matt Fish. He is the proprietor of Melt Bar and Grilled. And he had this idea. He wanted to build a bar and grill that would make his friends and himself very comfortable. And he is comfortable when he is eating giant grilled cheese sandwiches, hence the name Melt. And he is a rock and roller, big fan of Kiss, big fan of Rocket from the Crypt. And so when you go in there and you order, you are ordering off the back of old LPs. The menu is on the back of all these LPs. It's a great conversation starter. It feels really rock and roll. He also markets each sandwich as if it was a touring band. So you have got band posters for each month's special sandwich. And then it goes a little bit further. It goes into email and social media. About 3.5 years ago, he started his email program. He started his Facebook page. He started on Twitter. And he quickly discovered that email was the channel that made the cash register ring. It actually brought people in, and they would be eating. Facebook did it as well, but it did something a little bit different. It created conversation that Matt didn't even need to be a part of among the fans, not only in Lakewood, Ohio, but in other places, to suggest, hey, we'd love to see this sandwich, or what happened to this old favorite? Can you bring it back? Oh God, I wish you'd come to our town. So Facebook became this channel where the audience started taking him into new markets, and sure enough, he's expanded to 5 locations, the latest being right off the campus of Ohio State University. But he also did something else with the kind of highest level of loyalty, the highest level of email subscriber, and that was he launched the tattoo family. This was inspired by Rocket from the Crypt, who allowed fans to get tattoos and they'd let them in free for their concerts for life. Now, Matt can't give away the food for free, but he sure as heck can give 25% off for life. And that's not just the sandwiches, by the way, that's also the alcohol, for those who are interested. He launched this thinking about 5 to 10 people a year would take advantage of it. 500 people later, I was interviewing him this last summer. That's right, 500 people with grilled cheese tattoos or Melt logos on their body to get this discount. And he had created and tapped into something very interesting, and that was audience. An amazing audience that he could stand on the shoulders of to not only reach new audiences, but inspire what he was doing with his business. So that Melt audience, that tattoo family, they're the highest level. They get the email notifications first before anybody else when cool things happen, and that's because Matt gets audience. And so they got the notification that Adam Richman was coming to take down the Melt Challenge, which is, by the way, a 7-pound grilled cheese sandwich. And man did win that day, if you can count that as a victory. So he gets audience, but here's what I've discovered traveling the globe. Most companies, and I suspect I'll see some heads nodding here, have a certain ailment, and that is called audience assumption disorder. This goes hand in hand with the passion that you have for content marketing, because you put 99% of your effort into creating amazing content that everybody should come and see. You create amazing mobile apps that everyone will want to download, and then you put 1% of your effort into creating an audience for it. And it leaves you dependent, overly dependent on paid media to reach an audience. Now I know this malady exists because this is a word cloud from eConsultancy's Digital Marketing Quarterly Report from first quarter of last year. They asked marketers, what are the biggest opportunities for you in the coming 12 months? And they answered. And the biggest answers, the most answered, appear the largest. That's the word cloud, right? So what do you see up there? Content marketing, mobile marketing, social media, optimization, personalization. And as a guy writing a book called Audience last summer, I was very sad. A tear came to my eye. I thought, oh my God, they didn't even say audience. But I was wrong because I whipped out the magnifying glass and I zoomed and I zoomed and I zoomed again. And there's the word audience in the smallest 1-point font you can fit in a word cloud. So that's interesting, because notice where it's positioned, right below the word content. And what is content without audience? It is a tree falling in the forest that nobody hears. That's problematic, because we are confusing publication with distribution. We think it's enough to birth the baby. We think it's enough to get it out there. This is the build it and they will come of the mid-90s with websites. But it's happening again with content marketing, and it's happening again with mobile apps, and it's happening with every tweet and every Facebook post we have. We wonder why nobody cares about us, but we don't have anybody building audience. Take a look at this research from the Content Marketing Institute and Marketing Profs. They asked B2B marketers, and by the way, the numbers are very similar for B2C, rate the effectiveness of your organization and its use of content marketing. By the way, about 93% of the respondents were using content marketing. 9% say their content marketing is very effective. 9%. Now look at the other chart. 73% say they're going to increase their content marketing. 32% say they're going to increase it by a lot. That's faith-based marketing. They have not built the audience. They don't think it's effective, but hell, we're going to invest a lot in this. That's the problem that I'm seeing. And if we look at Joe Polizzi, Brian Clark mentioned him earlier, so Joe is going to have his ears ringing today. He defines content marketing as such, and you see right in the middle, I've highlighted it for you. His definition of content marketing is in fact inclusive of audience development. And if you ask Joe, what is the #1 audience he wants to build email subscribers. Why? Because he can go direct, he can push a button, he can control it. It's not dependent on anything but their permission. So content marketing and proprietary audience development are flip sides of the exact same coin. To do content marketing great, you better be building audiences. Now, what do I mean by proprietary audience development? That. Building audiences that you and you alone can reach, and doing it on an ongoing basis. Because audiences, folks, are assets. When you go and buy advertising, you are paying for an asset that somebody else created. It's a fossil fuel that they pulled out of the American consumer, right? They aggregated audience attention, they sell it back to you. So does your organization actually see email subscribers as assets? Do they see SMS subscribers and YouTube subscribers as assets? Facebook fans, Twitter followers, Instagram followers, Pinterest followers? Do they see these folks as assets? Let's do some simple back of the napkin math. I have 1 million email subscribers. I figure out that the delta between a lifetime customer and their value and a lifetime customer who is also an email subscriber is $30. That email subscriber is worth $30 more to me, let's say in this example. What am I sitting on? I am sitting on a $30 million asset, not a list, an asset with predictable downstream value. You know who loves assets? Those guys. CEO, CFO. But we don't talk to them like these are assets. We talk to them about the dots of paint of ROI in our grand portrait of marketing instead of the big picture of assets and long-term permanent value. And that's why most C-suites do not get this. They still see marketing as a cost center, when what we have to educate them to is it is an asset generator. We generate assets for the company if we build audiences, because they are a competitive advantage that our competitors do not have. And that leads me to the audience imperative. This is where I spoil the book, the heart and soul of it. What is it for everybody in this room? We have to use our paid, our owned, and our earned media to not just sell in this moment, in the short term, but to increase the size, engagement, and value of our proprietary audiences over the long term. This is a long-haul objective. It is not just increasing size, it is increasing the 3 attributes of an audience: size, engagement, and value. Now, if time permitted, I'd go off on this for another hour and give you a deep dive. But what I'd like to do today is showcase why it's so relevant and then explain what email tells us about this audience imperative. If you were a marketer coming out of school in 1990, you had it easy. You had that many channels to deal with. Over the course of my career, they've grown a little bit. And this is the most requested slide that I've ever put together. I've been using it for the past 3 or 4 years, and I just keep adding to it. Happy to give it to you. Because in one slide, it shows the challenge that we all have, both as consumers, because everything is fragmented, right? And as marketers, we are responsible for more channels, and yet we have not increased our staff or our budget for the most part. So how do we deal with that? We can go out in the marketplace and just buy media. However, the smart marketers are hybrid marketers now. They are using that paid to not only sell, but to build an audience all their own, and then hopefully get that audience to amplify and create earned media, right? That's the holy grail. So let's take a look at what email has taught us over the past 15, 20 years. Here's the first thing. No audience is permanent. If you've ever seen a mandala put together by Buddhist monks, it's amazing. Buddhist monks come together, they do a ceremony, and over the course of days or weeks or months, they build this amazing mosaic out of tiny, tiny dyed pieces of marble. And then they have a ceremony, because usually this is to wish good health or peace or something positive in the world. The ceremony lasts maybe an hour or two, and then what do? They sweep it away and freak out every American in the room. Because we can't imagine putting that much effort into something and then just blowing it away. But that's what we've had to embrace with email. The direct marketers 10, 15 years ago hated the email marketers because the email marketers were telling them, look, the consumer can unsubscribe at any time they want. But now what have we learned? Everything you can unsubscribe from. No audience is owned. Anybody in this room can get up and leave now. You can unsubscribe, unlike, unfollow, anything. I do not own you. No brand owns you. We strive to get your permission to market directly, and then we work hard to keep your attention. That is our job. This guy, as Brian mentioned this morning, was one of the first people to tell us that. This book celebrates its 15th anniversary this May. If you haven't read it, you need to. Because now you look at it and you're like, holy smokes, this is relevant to everything I do, even cookie-based advertising, social media, mobile apps. Did you know that 60% of mobile apps are downloaded and used less than 10 times? It's not enough to get the download. So to sear this into your mind, I choose the best picture of a band in the history of pictures of bands from ABBA, Swedish supergroup, that never won a Grammy, which was an atrocity. Not as much, of course, as their outfits, but we are in the business of always building those audiences. Always be building those audiences. By the way, a little aside, 2 weeks ago, there was a great article that came out. The reason ABBA looked so ridiculous is it was a tax shelter. Because under Swedish law, if you wore costumes that you couldn't wear out in public, they were tax deductible. So the mystery has been solved. Now, who's building audiences, not just in email, but elsewhere? Red Bull. You hear them in content marketing circles, but guess what? On YouTube, 3.5 actually now million subscribers. When they publish something to YouTube, YouTube sends out an email to let the subscribers know, and it gives them an immediate boost of visibility, far more than their competition. So much so, they have a whole media division. They become a media company because they don't just build the content, they build the audience. That's their direct and push button. Here's something else that email has taught us. Big data is about big relevance. You've been hearing that term today, relevance. It's not enough to just get data. That data is not big if you don't collect it, if it's wrong, or it's unused. We have to put it to use. This was predicted years ago in the one-to-one future from Peppers and Rogers. Came out 21 years ago. And what were they talking about? This world in which the communication, the marketing, the interaction that companies would have with consumers would be on a largely one-to-one basis, fueled by technology. And what are we seeing now? Not just in email, which is the first place that we were able to execute it, but on our websites, in our social media, in our mobile apps, and as you heard from Tim, in our advertising now as well. So when I get my email from Fitbit, I know it is tailored to me off of the device that I am wearing. Pulling it through, making the big data small enough to be relevant for me. Think about your own email programs. Have they evolved past newsletters? Are they personalized? Are they leveraging the data you know about the customer, either from purchase behavior or demographics or other things? Headlines can absolutely mislead you is another thing that we learned from email. This is from 2009, telling me why email no longer rules. Here's one that says email is dead. Here's one that says Sheryl Sandberg says email is dead. And here's one that says Zuckerberg says email is dead. Here's one that says Zuckerberg's Facebook is dead. Here's one that says Twitter's dead, and blogging's dead, and marketing's dead, by the way, and the web's dead, and of course the CMO's dead. Advertising's dead, and content marketing's dead. These folks are trying to gain the attention of what? Audiences, so that they can sell advertising. Read these articles, and 9 times out of 10, the article doesn't say what the headline says. So what I encourage you to do is don't pay attention to the headlines, pay attention, as some of the prior speakers have said, to your own metrics and how you're performing. Understand if email is a really important channel for you, or perhaps if there's something that's more important. Maybe your mobile app is taking priority because of the nature of your business. But whatever you're doing, always be building those audiences, building those abilities to engage them and garner their attention. I have spearheaded our subscribers, fans, and followers research series over the past 4 years, and this is the latest kind of comparative chart we have of US adults and who is a subscriber, a fan, and a follower. 93% US adults 18 and older are email subscribers. They subscribe to some sort of branded communication via email. 58% and growing, this number is probably a little larger because we did this research about a year ago. They have liked brands on Facebook. 12% follow brands. What has happened in the age of social media? Email has not eroded as a channel. In fact, the others have gained, which gives us great diversification opportunities. We also know, however, that a lot of short burst communications have moved from email into WhatsApp, into Snapchat, into other channels. So email is becoming this different kind of workhorse for us. You're seeing a lot more customer service, a lot more automated, behavioral-based types of communications. You also may have seen this study from McKinsey, where they took a look at the actual profitability. But remember, I told you headlines can be misleading. Is email 40 times more effective than the social channels for you? I don't know. I don't know your numbers. Do you? You need to figure that out and make sure that you're putting your money in the best channels to work for you as you build your audiences and seek to get response. Here's another sign that email's pretty darn healthy. Over $4.5 billion spent on acquisitions, including that of my own company by Salesforce, in the past 16 months. Another point that email taught us, it's not just about size, it's also engagement and value too. Hey, that's great that you've got a big old email list, but if they never respond, I don't care. I also don't care if Oreo has $35 million fans on Facebook if I'm not selling cookies. I also don't want you buying followers or buying subscribers or buying fans. This is buying a number, not a relationship or interactivity. That is a way to cheat the number, but it's a way to drown your program in very, very unproductive spend. Here's another headline that's quite interesting. Find the value for yourself. Anybody who tells you they've gotten to the value of a Facebook fan in some sort of uniform way, run for the hills. You have to calculate it yourself. Another thing I have learned from email is that all marketing is now direct thanks to that device that all of us have somewhere near or on us right now called the smartphone. Yet if you watched the Super Bowl, very, very few of those advertisers asked you to respond. And yet, Google says over 77% of US adults 18 and older are watching television with a mobile device near them. Are you asking them to do things? Are you asking them to join your audiences? Are you getting more than just the branding and the selling opportunity? Are you creating the audience for the long term? Because what's interesting and that's happened in the mobile world and in the email world is that mobile opens now far surpass Outlook, and web-based email clients. 51% of email opens are now on mobile devices. You have a short window, you have a handheld, you have a mobile customer, you can do things like geofence to reach out to them. Here's another thing I learned from email, is that attention is at a premium. This is why Beetlejuice bumps and grinds against Miley Cyrus in the MTV Awards. She can't sell albums very well, so she's got to draw attention. It's hard, hard world out there. And so as you look to get attention, you've got to maximize every touch point that you have with the consumer. To the point, we're fighting everything on that device. Put up your thumbs real quick, everybody. Look at your thumbs. Have you looked at your thumbs lately? Seriously, like, look at your thumbs. Those are your mortal enemies in marketing today. Because everything is a thumb swipe, delete away. I don't care if it's your email, I don't care if it's your tweet, I don't care if it's your app. How do you gain attention? How do you create usefulness? When you ask for the download, are you asking for push messaging permission? Are you asking for their email address so you can communicate outside? Because guess what? I sign up for Facebook today, it still asks me for my email address. Why? They want an external means to reach me if I go dormant. They want to diversify the communication strings. Here's something else I learned from email. Spam is not an email problem, it is an internet problem. So if you're worried about email spam, don't send it. But don't worry about the impact. If you're making your messaging more relevant to the consumer and timely, they will respond. 1978 was the first B2B spam, DEC sent it. 1994, this lawyer sent the first consumer spam. But I found something interesting. Hey, Facebook has a spam page, Google has a spam page, and guess what? Last month, the first WhatsApp spam appeared. It's an internet problem. Stop blaming it on email. Focus on what the channel does for you. If you are good behavior, if you are seeking good permission-based subscribers, if you're making relevant and timely content, spam is not an issue for you. And ultimately, evolution is going to be the key to survival. If you're doing the same things in email that you are doing now, or the same things in social media that you were doing 5 years ago, you're probably falling behind. Email was invented in 1971 as part of ARPANET by that gentleman. In 1979, the first consumer email opportunity came around when CompuServe opened up its network. In 1992, it became a WYSIWYG editor that you could make your emails with. Gmail launched 10 years ago. Danny, it celebrates its anniversary at the end of this month. I was reading your article about it. And here's what it is now. They have splintered the inbox. Multiple folders there. It continues to evolve. The inbox continues to evolve. Every single business on the internet relies on a healthy inbox. Think about it. Email's not dying. It's not going away. It's evolving. But are your communications, are the ways that you're building your audience and trying to reach out to them, are you leveraging data in timely and relevant ways? Are you doing the 4 rights? Right person, right time, right channel, right message? Those are the things I challenge you to look at. Are you continuing to evolve? So I'll close with this thought. At the end of the day, I firmly believe we need more than email managers. We need more than community managers, or what we really need are asset managers. We need people who look at this and build audiences, not just in email, but in the other channels, as truly assets of the company and can communicate that. And so what that means is I think we're going to see the rise of what I call directors of audience development. Third Door Media has one because they're a media company. Every media company doesn't just have an editorial side, they have an audience development staff. So if you're going to embrace Brian's message that we are media companies, you'd better have somebody looking horizontally and agnostically at the channels that are best for you and doing the things to help your brand marketers, your search marketers, your email marketers, anybody. Get the most out of what you're doing to build the audience for the next time you have something to say. That is the audience imperative. I think it is a permanent part of our responsibility set. It fills a giant hole we had in marketing that is kind of self-evident once you think about it, because right now it's very fragmented, this responsibility, right? The email guy's kind of doing it, the social person's kind of doing it. But are we really building assets at that top level of marketing and communicating it upward? And if your boss doesn't understand it, perhaps they'll understand some words from the boss. This guy has sold how many albums? 130 million? 11 #1 albums in a row, but he still understands consistency of thought, of purpose, and of action over a long time to keep the audience coming back. So I'm Jeff Rohrs. The book is Audience Pro, and I thank you very much for your time today.
Jeff. Sorry. Jeff, I wanted to, before we let you go, as a writer, I have a question about your book that I want to dig into. Yeah, can you tell me what the inspiring event was that you thought, okay, it's time, I'm writing this book now?
Wiley called me and asked me if I wanted to write a book.
Well, there you go.
We started our Subscribers, Fans, and Followers research series, as I said, about 4 years ago. And we did the first 7 in that series, and I immediately knew with my co-creator we wanted to write something. And then as we continued to do the series and kept finding different things, I was going out and speaking about the series. So in the back of my mind, there was always the idea of the book. When Wiley approached me, it was kind of perfect timing. It was before the acquisition. I didn't even know it was in the works. And I already had all of these thoughts that I kind of worked out on the road. But it was interesting. I thought I was going to write just Subscribers, Fans, and Followers, the book. And then as I sat down to write it, it became this broader concept of kind of proprietary audience development.
All right, well, thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks for your presentation. We're going to have Matt McGee come up and close off this morning's session. So thanks, Jeff.
Thank you.